Welcome back to another episode of City Speak. Earlier this month, more than 3,000 local leaders from across America came together in Washington, D.C. for NLC's annual Congressional City Conference. The conference's goal is to build and grow the federal-local partnerships for stronger and more resilient communities, both with the White House and on Capitol Hill. In that spirit, today, we are sharing a conversation from the main stage of that conference. Joining Clarence for this episode is U.S. Representative Greg Stanton, who has served Arizona's 4th Congressional District since 2019. He previously served as a city council member and as the mayor of Phoenix, Arizona. Today, he co-chairs the former local elected leaders caucus in the House of Representatives. We hope you enjoy today's conversation.
Well, NLC, let me say, first of all, let's welcome former mayor of Phoenix, Arizona, and our Congressman Stanton here to National League of Cities. Let's welcome him here today.
Not just former mayor, also former council member, and very active member of the National League of Cities, including back then it was the Crime Prevention Task Force. I don't know what it's called these days. But I love coming to these conferences. You and I talk backstage. I'm just going to get it right out in the open because I was a member of both the National League of Cities and I was active with the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Make no mistake, NLC is a lot more fun than the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Especially the NBC Leo parties. Those are the best.
Oh, shout out to NBC.
I snuck into a few of those back in the day.
Oh, God, you and Mayor Patterson, I don't know. He loves that, too. But, our conversation is going to be really easy because we have known each other for a long time. And I do want to just start in asking you to really help us to understand, as a former mayor, you bring a unique perspective. And I'd also want to say that your leadership has been amazing. Now, also, I need to let you know that this is going to be a podcast, everybody. And we're taping this, and we're going to play it for America to be able to hear a former mayor and now a congressperson give us that unique perspective. And what would you say helps you as a congressional member to make decisions and bring that local perspective to your decision making?
Okay, well, former local elected officials, whether it be mayor or council members, are the best members of the United States Congress, and I'll tell you exactly why. In this time of hyper-intensive partisanship and everyone kind of going to their separate corners, et cetera, at the city level, to get things done, you have to build a coalition on your council, and you have to build community support for whatever your priorities are. And it doesn't matter whether your coalition is Republicans on your council or Democrats on your council. You got to put it together. And the same thing in Congress. Now, it's harder in Congress because we're more labeled by our partisanship, what party you are. But the bottom line is we're a much bigger body, 435 members, but the fundamentals of politics are the fundamentals of politics. You got to build community support for your priorities, and then you got to go to other members of Congress and get them on your team, and it means grabbing them in the hallway or taking them out for lunch or dinner or maybe a happy hour, whatever it takes to build that coalition, because at the end of the day, you need a lot of votes to get things done, a lot of partners. And so being bipartisan in this Congress, in this divided Congress, is actually the best way to get things done. And the training that I had as a local elected official was the very best. And you see that in other local elected officials. Marilyn Strickman, former mayor from Washington. She's one of my best friends in Congress. Sam Liccardo just got elected to Congress as well. And I should say one thing on a sad note. Sylvester Turner, the former mayor of Houston, who just passed away, a legend in local government, was a great mayor of the city of Houston, and he had just got elected to Congress, and he'll be missed. I worked with him on a lot of various projects back when I was mayor. So if you're thinking about running for Congress, call me afterwards because I want to recruit you to run for Congress because we need more people from city councils and maybe a little less from state legislatures. How's that? We'll leave it at that.
All right. You acknowledge that Congress is very divided right now. And what we're going to do on tomorrow is we're going to go on the Hill to really advocate on behalf of cities. What recommendations would you give our members about how they can work across the aisle to get programs and policies that benefit their residents? What do they do?
I would say exactly what you would expect. Congress tends to be a little bit separated from the people. We're here in Washington. We spend most of our time here, a lot of our time here. So I try to keep my finger on the pulse of my community the best of my ability. But let's be honest, members of city councils, they have their finger on the pulse every single day. They are much closer to the people that they represent. So keep it real, tell those stories, make it real, the stories that you have of constituents that need housing or support public education or need public transportation, buses, light rail, other forms of public transportation, that they rely on that to get to the doctor or to achieve higher education. Tell those stories, and those stories actually do make a difference. It makes it real for members of Congress. And I know the members, this is what you do for a living, so do it on Capitol Hill as well.
Yeah, we've been telling our members to do that because we do know it's important to put a face on an issue, that, housing is not just about building housing, it's about families that move into those communities, about jobs, all those opportunities. And I think it's important that we do that. Now,
one more thing. I should also say that also tell them that each community has its own personality, its own priorities. And this is a wonderfully diverse audience, not just diverse and, racial diversity or religious diversity or national origin, but political diversity in this room. And there are towns that are more conservative and towns that are more to the left. And that's great. That's what makes America. People can kind of vote with their feet in terms of what city they want to live in. And Congress should support you in your priorities and not tell you, kind of try to create one-size-fits-all policies and using federal dollars to kind of make all cities the same. Let cities be individual and show their own personality. And that's America at its best. So make that point as well when you come up to Capitol Hill.
Well, you sound just like a mayor. You really do sound just like a mayor when you say stuff like that. Now, talking about local governments and what we do, we balance our budgets every year. We have to balance our budget every year. Now, this week, actually today or tomorrow, you're facing a budget deadline. And you need to keep the federal government open. So I want to say that. You also have entered into the reconciliation process. What do you need local governments to do and talk about these budgets and what we can do tomorrow when we get on the Hill? Can we help at all?
Well, you're getting to some tough issues there. We had a vote a few weeks ago on the budget resolution.
Right.
And in that budget resolution, there was a lot of tax cuts in there, $4.5 trillion, vastly disproportionately for the largest corporations and wealthiest Americans. I'm wearing my political hat here a little bit, but the facts are the facts. And then on top of that, there was $1.5 trillion of cuts to programs. You heard about the proposed cuts to Medicaid system, which is so important to cities across America. The reason why we made such a big deal about it is that almost $900 billion of the $1.5 trillion of cuts come directly from the Energy and Commerce Committee. And if you take Social Security and Medicare off the table, and you should, the big pot left is Medicaid. And I don't need to tell you, you know exactly what will happen if we make that level of cuts to Medicaid. Tens of millions of Americans will be taken off health care, not have access to their primary care physician. We have this incredible achievement in America where almost 93% of Americans have health insurance. We ought to be celebrating that. We ought to be building upon that instead of going backwards on that. And oh, by the way, having the opportunity to see a primary care physician, to engage in preventative care and medicine, will keep people out of the emergency rooms and actually saves money in the long run. But $4.5 trillion of tax cuts, $1.5 trillion of cuts to the budget, well, there's a big number in between, and all of that is getting added to the deficit. And that's why I think the direction that we're going is in the wrong direction. I generally think that as a matter of tax policy, our focus on tax cuts should be for middle class and working class families in the form of the child tax credit, which is one of the most successful programs in America, and make sure that the wealthiest pay their fair share. And then we could talk about cuts at that point once we kind of meet in the middle. But right now the math ain't mathing in terms of working this out, and that's why the deficit is going to explode under this proposal.
So you know that one of the ways in which we invest in our communities is through, and a financial technique is tax-exempt municipal bonds. Is that on the table? Is it really on the table as an option to help balance the budget?
Okay, I won't support it, obviously, as a recovering mayor.
Right.
We use tax-free municipal financing a lot, and we should, and that's how you help build infrastructure, build your community. Phoenix, the city that I was mayor of, is one of the fastest growing in America. We needed infrastructure that caught up to the new growth, and we needed resources to make sure the older parts of the city maintain the infrastructure that was there. So in a city like ours, a fast-growing city, you need to be able to do both. And tax-free municipal financing was a critical tool, not a like-to-have, a must-have for cities. And I know for older, more established cities that are more focused in on rebuilding things that are already in place, this is an essential tool. We need both. But yes, our Republican friends, when they talked about the $1.5 trillion in cuts that have to be made, there is a pretty big book of options, and that is one of the options. So you are here at the right time. Maybe you're here at the wrong time, but I don't know how to, but you're here at a key time because these decisions are being made right now as we speak, and you telling the stories about why municipal financing, tax-free financing is critical for the same constituents that we represent. I mean, I represent the same people that the cities in my district represent, why it is critical to support the people of your respective communities.
All right, so you also, Congressman, sit on a very important committee, and that's the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, which will address reauthorization of the transportation bill this year. City leaders have long advocated. It was like Infrastructure Week, probably for 2 decades. And we finally got a federal investment, a partner. So this process would be especially important to everyone in this room. What are some of the areas that this reauthorization will focus on?
Okay, before we talk about reauthorization, let me make one quick point. We're reauthorizing the bipartisan infrastructure law, the most successful and largest investment in public infrastructure in the history of the United States of America. Now, this is a bipartisan group, so this may sound a little partisan, so forgive me. But before we talk about reauthorization, this pause on funding of the existing let's fund the existing projects that were already voted upon by Congress and committed to the cities. Let's deliver what the people, we promised the people already. Okay, I had to get that off my chest. But yeah, so believe it or not, the 5-year bipartisan infrastructure law time period is almost up. And so we will be reauthorizing what we call the surface transportation bill, but it's effectively the bipartisan infrastructure law. And look, I'm a big city mayor. One thing I hope you'll talk to your representatives about, that in that reauthorization, it can't just be freeways. There should be freeways in there, and typically the balance is about 80% for arterial roads and freeways, 20% for various forms of public transportation, be it light rail in my city, buses, which I'm a big believer in. We need to keep supporting public transportation, particularly electric buses and clean energy buses as well. But we need to continue the investment in clean energy. It's in doubt right now. Because when the president did his pause on funding for infrastructure projects, he paused it because he was looking for anything that supported the so-called Green New Deal. Well, I don't even know what the Green New Deal is because there's no bill that ever passed Congress called the Green New Deal. But what I think he was trying to say is they didn't want to fund projects that supported sustainability or helped in the fight against climate change. Well, what do you think public transportation is? Especially in my city, light rail. Along the light rail in Phoenix, you've had some of the most dense development in the history of the city. There's lots of high rises along there. Is there anything better for the environment and fighting climate change than when we urbanize and build density in our communities? Is that the kind of thing they're trying to stop? Well, that's what good investment in public transportation does. So if you believe, like I do, that public transportation deserves its fair share of federal dollars, make sure you make that point as you lobby Capitol Hill tomorrow, because unfortunately, with this administration and their priorities, that is very much in doubt.
Well, we could talk all day, but one of the things I was told, he has to go back and vote at 1:30. So I want to get you out of here. But let's thank Congressman Stanton for taking the time out of his busy schedule to chat with us.
Now, I want to make one quick point before I leave.
All right.
One quick point.
If you're late, it ain't on me now.
You thanked me, but I view the federal government is at its best when I'm partnering with the cities in my district. So I love all of the cities that are in here, but I especially love Tempe, Chandler, Mesa, Arizona, and Phoenix, Arizona, the cities that I am so lucky and blessed to serve in Congress. Thank you for being my partner. Clarence, thank you for you and NLC for having me.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to City Speak with Clarence Anthony. If you like this show, let us know. Share this episode with your friends and make sure to subscribe. We're curious to hear what you think, what you want more of, and how we can improve. If you have feedback or an idea for a guest you'd like Clarence to sit down with, send us your thoughts at cityspeakpodcast@nlc.org. Join us next month for a new episode. Like and subscribe here or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.